Hello board game brothers and sisters, I'm Adam Singer and welcome to another episode where I'll be letting you know if Kickstarter is launching this week. If you're new to the channel, we do this every week, so make sure to subscribe if you want to stay up to date with all these Kickstarters coming down the line. One thing I noticed over the past few weeks is that these videos have been getting longer and longer, and I really want this to be a video that you can just watch quickly and get a good idea of all the different games that you're interested in, so I'm going to try and dial it back a little bit this week. So in the interest of that, let's check out the Kickstarters. And the first campaign we have launches on September 13th, and it's called 13 Unlucky for Some. And this plays up to 6 players and can take up to 2 hours to play. And this is a high luck game that uses a really interesting board, and players are going to be moving a marble around the board, and on your turn you're going to be rolling 2 dice. One's going to dictate your movement points, while the other is going to dictate which slider around the edge of the board is going to get pulled out. If your marble is on a space where that slider gets pulled out, your marble is going to fall through the top of the board and roll back to the starting space. And to win this game, you need to be the first player to get to the end of the board and then roll a 13 on a d20. And then on September 14th, we have Bridge City Poker, and this plays 2 to 4 players. It takes about 20 to 45 minutes to play. And this is a trick-taking game where the goal of the game is to get rid of as many of your cards that you can by the end of the game. The different suits in this game are represented by bridges, and although players are going to be trying to get rid of all their cards, their hand is actually going to be growing throughout the game as they win the different tricks. The catch here is at the end of each round, players will be able to choose one suit of their choice in order to burn. So I think the strategy you'll want to have is to try and keep winning the tricks that have the same suit that you want to burn, and then try to get rid of all your other cards to the other players. There's also some special ability cards that you can get throughout the game, and you can try and use those to your advantage to try and get rid of more of your cards. It's really cool to see all the different twists people can put on different trick-taking games. This one looks like a really interesting one. I think it seems really fun that you'll be trying to build up your hand just to try and squash it back down. The game ends once all the cards have been used, and players are going to be scoring points based on how many cards they have left in their hand, and the player with the lowest score wins the game. Also on the 14th, we have Verdant, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 30 to 45 minutes to play. And this one was very close to being our Discord pick of the week. This one is being published by Flat Out Games. That's really starting to build a reputation for making very crunchy, lightweight games. Some of the other games that they've published that are most notable for that are Calico and Cascadia. And after reading the rules for this one, I do think this one is going to fall into that category. The artwork's by Beth Sobel, so you know it's going to look awesome. And in this game, players are houseplant enthusiasts trying to create the best interior space by combining different houseplants with different items around the house. At the start of the game, players are going to set up the table so that there's a row of plant cards, a row of tokens, and a row of room cards. And on a player's turn, they'll be able to choose one pair of card and token, and then take that into their hand. So the way that this works is, since there's 2 rows of cards, you can actually choose if you want the top card or if you want the bottom card, but you always take the token in the middle. The cards that aren't taken that round are going to get a green thumb token placed on them to incentivize players to take those cards in future rounds of the game. Green thumb tokens allow players to increase their gardening skills, which will allow them to take additional actions later in the game. And players will have to place their cards into a checkered pattern so that no 2 room cards and no 2 plant cards are side by side. And then players will be able to put different objects into the room cards to gain different points depending on what's adjacent to it. There's also other tokens that you'll find throughout the game that have some different effects. But this is all tied together by the cards, because the cards will have different objectives for the players to try and complete in order to gain victory points. And that's going to basically ask players to put together different combinations of tokens, cards, and colored rooms in order to maximize their victory points. It definitely looks like another game in their lineup that's going to be very light on rules but offer a lot of depth of decision. So if you liked their previous games, or if this one just sounds interesting to you, I do have links to all these campaigns in the description below. Feel free to check it out and click to get notified. Also on the 14th, we have the next game from CMON Games, ranked at a 6.4, and this is called Masters of the Universe Clash for Eternia. And this definitely doesn't deserve the 6.4, it just goes to show how much people don't like CMON Games as a company, but the actual game here does look like it can be a lot of fun. One thing I want to point out here is that I don't think this campaign is going to be shipping to Europe. It looks like the IP here has been split between CMON and Archon Studios, because Archon launched their campaign a few weeks back, only shipping to Europe. And I think that this was due to some IP agreement where Archon Studio had rights to that region of the world, and CMON is going to have the rights to the remaining regions of the world. I couldn't officially find any info on that, so if this looks interesting to you, definitely go check out the campaign and see for yourself. But this game is going to be a one versus many skirmish type board game, but there also is going to be AI control so that you can play the game solo as well. And at the start of each round, players are going to be choosing an activation order for each of their characters, and then players are going to be putting their character's associated card out on a shared board in alternating order so that each player's character gets activated one at a time. This is all done in secret, so all the character cards are going to be put face down until it's that character's turn to go. Every time a player's character card gets flipped, it's going to award that player a number of power tokens, and power tokens are used to activate special abilities or purchase different strategy cards. The player will be able to use any strategy cards if they have them, but then also take up to 2 actions with that character. And your actions are mostly going to be moving around a board and attacking the other players. Of course, this is a game by command, so there's going to be a whole truckload of plastic and a lot of focus put on that. But one thing I noticed just while researching this game is that the artwork done for the different cards and for the board as well were all really well done as well and really impressive. Combat in this game is resolved using dice rolling, and the way that you win this game is you're going to want to complete 2 out of 3 objectives first, and those 3 different objectives are kill 4 of your opponent players, gather a majority of tokens scattered across the map, or deliver a certain token to a certain point on the map, or prevent that from happening if you're on the opposing side of that team. Every time an objective is scored, all characters are going to gain a skill upgrade, which is going to allow for more options later in the game, and then also ramp things up and add a little bit more excitement as the game progresses. Next on the 14th, we have Altenor Secrets, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 45 to 90 minutes to play. And this is a team versus team game where players are going to have 6 characters on each team, and each character is going to be asymmetrical with their own strengths and weaknesses. And this game is played over 4 rounds where players are going to be taking turns alternating each of their 6 characters. And this does have that sort of skirmish style game to it, but instead of just trying to defeat all the other characters, you're actually trying to gain the most victory points. And there's a few different ways that you could do that through accessing different key areas of the board, bluffing the other players, and controlling magical artifacts that you might find throughout the game. The game's fought on a circular board with different levels, and it's constantly changing throughout the game, and each ring is going to have 8 areas with its own specific rules and different ways to score victory points. The team that scores the most victory points from all these different opportunities that the game presents over the 4 rounds wins the game. Also on the 14th, we have another campaign, but this one's not for a board game, but it's for something else really cool and related to board games, and this is the Meeple Light. And the creator actually ended up sending me one of these, and you may have noticed it in my backdrop here. I've never actually mentioned it because I knew the campaign was coming up, and I just mention it now. And this was originally designed to go on top of a Christmas tree, and it actually comes with this little base here that the Meeple Light can mount onto, and then you would just put this on top of your tree. And I'm pretty excited to present this because it means I get to do that thing that all other content creators do that I haven't done yet, and mention that this is all prototype materials, and to check out the campaign if you want to see what the final product is going to look like. And since I do have the light here, I think it makes sense that I'll give you a closer look. So here's what the prototype version looks like. It's just made of white plastic, and then it has some cables going into the foot, and it has a little recessed area in the foot there so that the cables are hidden when you draw them into the back. And then on the cable, there's a section with a few different buttons here, and these buttons just allow you to change a few of the settings, allowing you to set what color you want it to be, or even to allow it to change colors and to even change the speed that it alternates between the different colors. I don't know how much of the details are going to change, but this prototype gets power through a USB port, and then I just have a USB adapter so that I have it plugged into the wall when it's sitting over there behind me. Since this has USB, I just plugged it into my computer, and you can see it just instantly starts lighting up. It's kind of hard to see on the camera. I don't know if this will help, but I'll try turning down the exposure on my camera a bit. And I think that helps a little bit. I will say that it does look better in person than it does on the camera right now. I'm pretty selective with what I decide to put out on display, but as soon as I got this, I was pretty excited to get it set up, and as you can see, I've already found a home for it, and I don't plan on getting rid of it anytime soon. I think it makes a really fun addition to the game room, especially when you're playing later in the evening, which I usually am, and it can also be used to draw attention to the most important part of your house, your game shelf. And next on the 14th, we have Ambal Tournament Foundation, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 30 to 40 minutes to play. And this is a card combat game that plays 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2. In this game, players are going to be constructing their decks and then drawing 7 cards into their hand. The cards will be a combination of defense and offensive cards, and there's 4 different types of schools of cards that you can have throughout the game, and they all have a different feel to them and interact differently with one another. This game's primary mechanism is focused around simultaneous reveal. Each player is going to choose a card from their hand and then put it out on the table and reveal it against their opponent's card. Each player will have to pay whatever energy cards are required to activate that card, and then the effects are resolved, and this process continues until each player is no longer able to play any cards. At the end of each round, those cards get discarded, and players are going to draw back up to 7 cards in their hand. Players will also get a little bit of energy to prepare for the next round. And unlike many other dueling games, the cards do not represent different characters and monsters. Instead, they're different skills and abilities, and you're going to be pitting those against your opponent. Some cards do have some special conditions or requirements in order to be able to play them, and the other cards that you have in your hand or in your discard pile could augment some of the actions that you have available. The game ends when a player's health gets down to 0 or when their energy gets to 5 or lower, and then the other player would win the game. And it is possible for both players to reach this lose condition in a single round, resulting in both players losing the game. Also on the 14th, we have Pirate Party Women of the High Seas, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 20 to 45 minutes to play. And this is a card game themed around different women pirates from history. And the goal of this game is to try and score points, mainly by forming sets of cards in your hand. And you're essentially trying to form poker hands, but there is a little bit of a catch here because you can try and form hands that match other hands that you've made previously or hands that other players have made. And in that case, you get the points for that hand. Players each get drawn 8 cards, and then the remaining cards go into a draw pile. And then on your turn, you're going to be trying to form those different hands and matching the other hands that were already created. And there's also some other cards like adventure cards that allow for other opportunities for scoring. Players can play as many cards as they want, but they can only draw 1 card at the end of their turn. The game ends when either the players draw the Kraken card or when a player is able to get rid of all the cards in their hand. And if you're able to do that, you gain some bonus victory points at the end of the game. Also on the 14th, we have Dog Park, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 40 to 80 minutes to play. And this is a set collection and point-to-point movement game all about taking care of different dogs in their kennels, but then also taking as many of those dogs for walks to score victory points. Players take on the role of these dog walkers, and it's going to be up to you to recruit, walk, and take care of the dogs. The game plays over 4 rounds, and each round is split into 4 phases. There's the recruitment phase where players are going to be bidding on dogs using victory points in order to bid. And then there's the selection phase where players decide which of the dogs that they've recruited that they plan to walk for the next round. The walking phase is where the majority of points are earned because players are going to be choosing which dogs to take with them on the walk, and then journeying through the board trying to gain different victory points and collect different resources depending on the dogs that they chose to walk and what opportunities are presented to them on the board. So essentially it's the combination of dogs that you choose to walk and then the route that you decide to take that's going to determine what sort of resources and victory points you end up with. And then finally there's the home time phase where players earn points for their walked dogs and lose points for any unwalked dogs that were left in their kennels. And negative points is normally a board game designer's faux pas, pun included. But I really like it in this case because dogs are really high energy, and if you have a dog, you need to be walking it. Dogs are not meant to be left in a kennel or a home, and the negative points really tie into that from an ethical standpoint, so it's a really good example of how theme can really justify something that's normally looked down upon and turn it into something that's fun. Also some really nice artwork here, and I really love these dog walking meeples, and it looks like this game might have taken some inspiration from Wingspan because it looks like some of these cards have a little bit of info about the different breeds of the dogs. Looks like a fun little game, so for all you dog lovers out there, or if you know someone who would really appreciate a game like this, feel free to click to get notified. I have links to all these campaigns in the description below. Also on the 14th, we have AngerSmash, and this is a party game for 2 to 5 players and takes about 20 to 60 minutes to play. And the goal of this game is pretty simple. It's to get 4 identical Anger cards and 4 identical Zen cards. And the player that's able to do that first wins the game. Of course, like most party games, this is going to involve some take that, and you're going to be able to steal different cards from your opponents and prevent them from getting the combinations of cards that they need to win the game. The player that's able to hit that win condition first while stopping their opponents wins the game. Next on the 14th is ScandalOh, and this plays 1 to 6 players and takes about 75 to 40 minutes to play. And this is a deduction game, but something that's very interesting about this one is that it's from the same creators that created Awkward Guess. And that one really stood out to me because I remember watching a video by Tom Vassell where he was saying that that was one of the best deduction games that he's ever played. And that is also a game that's very hard to find. And I was just about to say I'm not sure how similar this one is to Awkward Guess, but then I just noticed that this is a complete reimplementation of that game. So yeah, if you wanted Awkward Guess, this is a great opportunity to get the next iteration on it. A nice thing with reimplementations is that they normally fix a lot of the flaws with the original game, so I can only imagine that this one's going to be a little bit more streamlined and have some of those flaws worked out. And in this game, players are going to be trying to investigate a scandal. Players are going to have to keep an eye on the different celebrities and their contacts, and they're going to have to question newspaper editors, search for clues anywhere throughout the city, and also consult your other sources, including the other players. Each player starts the game with 7 cards, and each card has a point value on it of either 1 or 2, depending on how much information it provides. And then each card can also have several references on it, and these are kind of like tags. So if I want to find information about a certain topic, I will mention that reference, and then players can offer up their cards to me if they have cards that match that reference. The catch is that in order for me to get those cards, I have to trade with cards in my hand, and it's not a one-to-one trade. Instead, you're going to have to give away the same number of points as the number of points that you received. So not only are you going to be gaining information, you're also going to be giving it away as well. After each round ends, players can try to uncover the scandal, and if the player is incorrect, they're going to discard part of their hand and then draw 3 new cards. The player who uncovers the scandal first wins the game. And if you want more info on this game, definitely go check out Thinker Themer because they already have a preview on their channel, and they also go into a comparison with Awkward Guess so you can get that complete picture and see exactly what the differences are and which one you would prefer. Also on the 14th, we have Unsurmountable, and this is a game from Button Shy Games that creates a lot of small card games, and it comes from the designer Scott Almes that created the Tiny Epic series. And this plays 1 player and takes about 15 minutes to play. And in this game, your goal is to climb a mountain by completing a climbing route before running out of cards. You're going to be managing a row of cards where you're adding cards to the right-hand side and then taking cards from the left-hand side in order to complete your route to the top of the mountain. On your turn, you can do one of 2 things. You can either take that leftmost card and add it to your mountain route, or you can take any other card and discard it to activate its ability. And then after each turn, a new card is going to get added to the right side of that row. And you can see from the image on their campaign page the way that the different cards join together and some of the different actions that you might find. And in order to complete that final mountain route from the cards that you've removed from the row, you're going to be trying to form a triangle of cards in the shape of a mountain. So you're going to have 4 cards on the bottom, 3 above that, 2 above that, and then 1 on the peak. Do that before you run out of cards and you win the game. And now on the 15th, we have One Deck Galaxy, and this plays 1 to 2 players and takes about 30 to 60 minutes to play. And this is a fully cooperative game of space civilization building. And players are going to be using cards, dice, and tokens to leave their impression on the galaxy. And there's going to be other forces in the galaxy pushing against you. Each card in the deck represents a location in space that your civilization has scouted, but also rewards you if you are able to colonize or study it. The different rewards you get will help your civilization get stronger, as well as help with your dice rolling and help with manipulation of the dice that you rolled. Each time your deck of cards runs out, it represents a new era where you would have got stronger, but also all your opponents are getting stronger and stronger as well. So the game's going to get more and more challenging as the game progresses if you're not able to keep up with that enemy AI. Also on the 15th, we have Raid the Word Game, and this plays 1 to 8 players and takes about 15 to 45 minutes to play. And this is a fast-paced party game where players are trying to form different words, and the game can have a few different end game conditions depending on the number of points you want to get or the number of words that you need to try and complete. But the way that the game works is that players are going to be drawing a random number of letters from a bag and then dropping them into the center of the board. Players are going to race to yell out a word that they can try and form by using those letters, and then they're going to put those letters onto their board. The areas on your board can only fit so many letters, so as you form more and more words, your options are going to become more and more limited. A neat aspect of this game is that you can actually steal words from your opponents if you can use their entire word in combination with the new letters added to the center of the board. If you're able to do that and you have space for it on your board, then you're able to steal those letters. Another really neat thing about this campaign is that there's also a digital mobile version available both for Android and iOS, and it's all completely free, which is awesome. So if you want to check that out before committing to a pledge, I'll have links to both of those in the description below, as well as a link to the campaign. Also on the 15th, we have Instant Warfare Military Battle, and this plays 2 to 8 players. It takes about 20 to 160 minutes to play. And in this game, each player is representing an opposing military force, and each player is trying to be the last force standing. Each player starts with a troop card and 24 discs, and the troop card is going to dictate which troops are in your army, and then you're going to be distributing those discs amongst those troops to determine how many of each troop that you want to have in your army. The heart of the game is dice rolling, where players are going to be taking turns trying to eliminate the other players, and you're going to be choosing a player and the troop that you want to target, and then you're going to be rolling a dice to attack, and then they're going to be rolling a defense die to try and defend. Each player also draws an action card at the end of each turn that presents some new options to the players. Negotiations and allegiances are allowed, but they're only going to last as long as they are beneficial to both parties. And if you're playing with more than 4 players, you're going to be also using politics cards, which will assign a political alignment to each of the players. Now we're getting into games on the 16th, and the first one is ThreeTale, and this plays 1 to 3 players and takes about 120 minutes to play. And this is a cooperative adventure game, but it's also our Discord pick of the week. And this is a game that launched a few weeks ago, but they pulled it down to make some changes based on backer feedback, and now they're relaunching it with those improvements that they've made. And the way that this game works is that each game is going to end with a doomsday scenario that players are going to be trying to prepare for, and then at the end of the game they're going to have to fight against that doomsday scenario and try to mitigate it or prevent it from happening to either save the entire world or save themselves. So at the start of the game, in the prophecy phase, 3 of these doomsday scenarios are going to get drawn and presented to the players, but only one of these is actually going to get triggered at the end of the game. So this is going to give the players some insight into the possible doomsday scenarios and what they want to prepare for, but they're not going to want to over-prepare for a single scenario since only one of them is going to get activated. You don't want to get over-invested into one that doesn't get triggered. Based on this information, players draft their heroes, and then we move into the past phase. And this phase is going to be more similar across the different games. Players are going to be using this phase to move around the board, gather different resources, upgrade their characters, and try to get as strong as possible before the next phase begins. In this phase, you can also engage in battles, complete quests, and collect treasures and artifacts by drawing different cards. After that, players are going to move into a very short present phase, and this is where it gets revealed which of the doomsday scenarios is going to become activated. This will trigger the future phase, which can play very differently from game to game since each of these doomsdays has their own set of rules and objectives for the players to complete. You might have to battle cooperatively or against each other to fight against giant monsters, gather resources, or save yourselves. This game has some really neat ideas, and I know Alex over at BoardGame Co. really liked this one, so if you want a full review, definitely go ahead and check out his channel, and you can find the link to this campaign in the description below. Also on the 16th, we have Colab, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 90 to 120 minutes to play. And regardless of the name, this is not a cooperative game, at least not intentionally. And in this game, players are mad scientists equipped with a team of minions, and players are going to be sending out their minions along with their scientists out on the board to gather resources, because players are going to want to complete different creations in the form of cards, which will upgrade your character with new abilities and trigger new effects. And this one's going to be my pick of the week, but before I get to that, I'll just explain a little bit more about how the game plays. Like I said, players are going to be sending their minions out on the board, but first you're going to be loading them with a die in order to determine the resources that you want to gather as that minion travels around the board. Aside from your minions, you're also going to gain resources by rolling dice, and you'll be able to gain new dice throughout the game and build your own dice pool. And you're going to be using those resources to build different cards by using your scientist. And in order to do that, you're going to have to send your scientist out on the board. And what's really neat here, and why I think this game is called Colab, is because when you go to build those cards, you can actually use the resources from minions adjacent to you on the board. So there is kind of a cooperative aspect here where the minions don't mind who they help, but each individual player is going to be trying to take advantage of that while trying to move their minions and their character to try and prevent it for the other players. Each card you build will get added to your tableau, which will gain you new abilities, trigger special effects, or gain new victory points. A neat aspect of this is the cards all behave a little bit differently, and you can create some really neat chaining depending on the cards that you put adjacent to each other. The game ends once a player has 12 cards in their tableau, and the player with the most victory points wins the game. And the reason I made this one my pick of the week is because as I was reading it, it was really reminding me of one of my favorite games, which is Dinosaur Island. And the game itself looks like it plays very differently, but what I really love about Dinosaur Island is how it combines a lot of different mechanisms into a really fun package that's easy to learn and and play. And I think this is really nailing on that as well, but giving you a very different game with some very different mechanisms. I know that feeling I got is very subjective, and I probably wouldn't have made it my pick of the week just on that, but because I got that feeling, I kept looking into this game, and then I discovered that one of the designers is actually the co-designer of Dinosaur Island. And discovering that after I made the correlation kind of validated it for me, because now I have 2 points of reference, and I feel like it's less subjective because of it. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, Jonathan Gilmour is an excellent designer, and he's created a ton of really great games. So this one is just worth a look just for that reason alone. But he isn't the only one that designed this game. He also co-designed it with John Meetling, and although he doesn't have quite as many games under his belt, he is the designer of one of my favorite solo games, which is Palm Island, which I still have in my collection today, so there's definitely some points there as well. Unfortunately, there's nothing under the ratings tab proving that they've been playtesting and getting feedback on this game, but on their campaign page they do say that they have been playtesting this for a very long time. But based on the designers and their history, I really don't have any doubts about that. But publishers and designers, when you do playtest your games, make sure to ask your playtesters to leave a comment and rating on BoardGame Geek. I'm sure you're getting a lot of great feedback from your playtesters and you're iterating on your game because of it, but seeing some ratings and comments here really helps validate that for the rest of us. I won't divulge too much more on the campaign page because 1, I tell the publishers I won't, and secondly, I just want to leave it to the publishers to decide what and when they show to the public, because a lot of it can change at any moment, and I don't know exactly what or won't change by the time that the campaign actually launches. But what I will say is this one is very reasonably priced. And the last campaign we have is launching on September 16th, and it's called Galgenbeck Sacrifice, a Morgborg adventure. And I don't really know too much on this one, but it is an RPG, and it looks like they have a bit of a series put together already with different versions and iterations on it. But this RPG seems to have a very unique style, which is kind of akin to a horror, or the way that they describe it as a doom metal album. Like I said, I don't have too much info on this specific version of it, but I'll just scroll through their webpage here so you can see a little bit of the feel that this RPG will give. And every Sunday I actually post a whole list of these games on Reddit, and that's a great place to go if you want to have discussions and maybe ask people who have played this RPG in the past what they think of it. I don't normally put the link to that Reddit page in the description of these videos because I post it after these videos, but maybe what I'll start doing is just adding a link to my Reddit profile, so if you do want to check that out, you can check out my profile and check out the recent posts, and you should be able to find it there. And that's all I have for you this week, but don't leave yet because we've got some awesome giveaways to announce, and the first one is going to be for Dungeons of Infinity Kingdom Cost. And this campaign's named after the expansion, but it's also going to be offering a completely revamped and reprinted core game with completely new hero artwork, upgraded components, these really cool gamer tray hero boards, and a completely improved rule set. And if you're not familiar with Dungeons of Infinity, it's a game with an insane amount of permutations. You can play as a number of different characters, but then the game also offers cooperative, competitive, and solo modes. And you're going to be diving through a dungeon that's randomly created as you explore. And there's over 100 different randomly generated events, such as floods, cave-ins, or challenges and opportunities that will be presented to the players. As you explore the dungeon, you're also going to find some randomly generated items and gear, and actions come in the form of cards that you'll be able to reuse throughout the game, and players will be using a combination of a d20 and their player stat board to try and complete different actions. The game can also be played in a one-shot scenario, but it also offers a 30-scenario campaign. And the new expansion is going to add another campaign on top of that will continue the story from where the original left off, but it's also going to introduce new dungeons, new characters, enemies, and equipment, and brand new enhancement cards that give your character powerful bonuses for completing the new locations. And this giveaway is going to be for a really nice gameplay all-in bundle that's going to come with the deluxe edition of the core game along with the expansion and miniatures. Intent of this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag Infinity and let us know of a creature or a room that you would like to or not like to find in the dungeon. Maybe a nice serene room with a fairy fountain that heals you a little bit would be a nice addition. I mean, not every room has to kill you, right? And the next awesome giveaway we have is for Green Hell, the board game, and this plays 1 to 4 players, and it's a cooperative campaign survival game that's based on the video game with the same name. The game offers 3 levels of difficulty, and players will be exploring the jungle, encountering events and enemies, and as they explore deeper and deeper into the jungle, the game's going to get more challenging as it progresses. Players are going to want to find a place to camp, and then they're going to be doing different things like scavenging for food and water and finding supplies. The game has some really neat mechanisms when it comes to scavenging resources. When you have the opportunity, you're going to be rolling these different dice, and then you're going to be piecing them together to form the different resources that you're able to form. Once you do that, you'll grab the associated polyomino shapes, and if you can fit them in your pack, then you can carry them along with you. You'll also be able to craft different structures and weapons, and you're going to be trying to complete various objectives throughout the game. Every night is an opportunity for threat cubes to accumulate, and the more threat cubes that you gain, the more difficult threats that you'll encounter throughout the game. I'm really interested in this one. I really like the survival theme, and it looks like this one's pretty well thought out. And this giveaway is going to be for the Deluxe Survival Pledge, which comes with a copy of the core game, as well as 4 character miniatures and the creepy dice roller. And to enter this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag green, and leave a survival tip for the rest of us if we happen to be trapped in a jungle. My tip is that you can actually build a pretty effective deadfall trap out of a few sticks and a rock. Just be careful while doing this, because it will smack down on your hand several times before you get it right. And the next very awesome giveaway we have is for Solar Sphere, and this one takes place in the same world as their previous game known as Solar Storm, but this one plays very differently from that one. That one, I believe, was a cooperative game where you're trying to escape the gravitational pull of a star. But in this game, you're going to be working competitively, and all the players have been contracted to build a sphere around the star in order to try and harness its energy. And players are going to be rewarded based on their contributions to the solar sphere. And in order to build the sphere, players will be rolling worker dice, which represent their ships, which they'll be putting out on different locations in order to gather resources. Players will be following different restrictions as they place their ships out into the galaxy, but players will also be able to use their drone tokens to try and augment and unlock some different potentials for their ships. Players only have a limited amount of drone tokens that they can use throughout the game, but with special abilities you can recycle them and use them again. And of course your ship isn't complete without a crew, so players will be recruiting crew cards throughout the game, which will allow them to perform some different actions and help them fight against different hostiles that they'll encounter throughout the galaxy. And I did say that this giveaway was awesome because this is going to be for the Fleet Pledge, which comes with the Solar Sphere base game along with the expansion box, as well as the Solar Sphere Kickstarter pack and a really sweet playmat. And to enter this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag solar and let me know what your Solar Sphere building company's name would be. I guess mine would probably be Star Clutter. And the last awesome giveaway we have this week is for The Spill, and this is a cooperative game where players are trying to push back against an oil spill, clean the water, and also rescue wildlife. But every round players are going to be rolling different dice down the center dice tower, which is going to represent more oil spilling out of the oil rig, and that's going to be put out around this circular board. If too much oil spills out unaddressed, or if too many animals end up in sickbay, then the players are going to lose the game. Each turn a player will get 4 action points to spend on things like moving your ship, rescuing an animal, rescuing a contaminated animal, pushing oil back into the oil bag, or even removing an oil dye from the game completely. Players will gain orange resource cubes as they clean up the oil, and then they'll be able to spend those to perform some one-time abilities that will be cycled as they get used throughout the game. And this giveaway is going to be for the Friends of the Ocean Pledge, which will get you the core game and all unlocked stretch goals. And to enter this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag spill and let us know which one of these animals you would sign up to rescue. I used to play Echo the Dolphin a lot on Sega Genesis when I was a kid, and it was a really tough game, and I couldn't possibly bear the thought of another dolphin life on my conscience. Plus, if I learned anything from Hitchhikers to the Galaxy, I'd like to be on their good side. And let's go ahead and draw the winners for last week's giveaway, and I'm just going to go in reverse order from how I announced them last week. And the first one was for Backyard Chickens. And to enter this giveaway, you actually just have to go over to the Discord and click this little emoji here, and it's going to get automatically drawn. It looks like it'll get drawn tomorrow at 2:56. Eastern Standard Time. So there's actually still some time to enter that one if you haven't entered it already and you're watching this video early enough. So if you've entered that one, just keep an eye on your notifications because it'll notify whoever wins. And also don't forget you can head over to the Rules channel and you can go ahead and click this little present emoji and it'll get you automatically notified of any future giveaways we have on the Discord. And the next giveaway we had is for Earth Rising, and to draw a winner I use this fancy application here, and all these extra names down here are bonus entries from my Patreon subscribers. If you like this sort of content and you want to help out the channel, definitely check that out. I truly appreciate it, and it also gets you some nice extra bonus entries into these giveaways. So let's go ahead and draw those comments and draw a winner. And the winner is Alistair McCulloch. Congratulations, Alistair. I'll reach out to you and let you know that you won yourself a pledge for Earth Rising. And the next giveaway was for Tanares RPG, and this is one that I'm currently backing, so I'm going to be super jealous of whoever wins this one. So let's go ahead and grab those comments and draw the lucky winner. And the winner is Chris Doyle. Congratulations, Chris. I'll reach out to you and let you know you won yourself a pledge for the Tanares RPG. And the last giveaway we had was for Mythic Mischief. So let's go ahead and draw those comments and draw a winner. And the winner is Felix Chu. Congratulations, Felix. And for this giveaway, I asked which of the factions you would have hung out with when you were back in high school, and he says that he would have hung out with the trolls. Excellent choice. I'm not in high school anymore, but I definitely appreciate some solid trolling at my board game nights. Just email me at adam@shelfclutter.com and we'll get that pledge all sorted out. And that's it for this week. I still have a ton of really awesome giveaways to announce, but I only wanted to put 4 into this video. So make sure to stay tuned until next week's video because we'll have a ton more to announce. Definitely feeling like the second half of this year is really ramping up with some solid games. Quite a few I've been backing, which is pretty out of character for me. I'm not sure if the games are just getting better or if I'm just getting more and more pulled into that Kickstarter charm. Thanks so much for watching. Have yourself an awesome week, and until next time, keep that shelf cluttered and the table full.